This is Jason Anderson, Chairman of the Killenly Town Council, and we are calling this regular Town Council meeting to order. It is currently 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 8th. And at this point, we are going to move on to our prayer, which is going to be led by Pastor Lacrone.
Gracious God, as we gather this night, we thank you for the day you've made and the evening now upon us. We praise you for your abiding presence, your grace, your mercy, and your love. May all hearts be tuned to your presence here this evening. In these hallowed halls where debate is engaged and decisions take hold, we humbly seek your wisdom and discernment for our community. Be about the business of this body, for we are only human, knowing only what we know, while you see the length of our days and every hair on our heads. Lord, you know the challenges we face as a community, the differences of opinion, the polarity of our times. You know the agenda of this meeting and every human heart in this room. Lead us now to the common ground on which we are to stand. Help us to work together as we seek the welfare of the city. May the voice of the people be heard and represented with grace and compassion. May the people be served in a spirit of justice and truth. Guide and guard every word uttered here tonight. May they be spoken in a spirit of grace and charity, every voice heard, every interest and concern received with equal humility. May all actions be guided by the desire to serve the best interests of all residents, especially the least of these among us. Let us strive for the mutual well-being of all. Inspire us now to serve one another in love. Help us to be good stewards of the resources entrusted to us, and may their use be fruitful. We thank you this evening, O Lord, for this council, for those who have answered the call to serve. You see the time that they commit and the sacrifices they make for the sake of our community. Bless them and the families and neighbors that they love. Strengthen them for the work now before them. Above all else, Heavenly Father, may the great affection you hold for all creation cover this room and flow out into this greater community that you have called us all to be together. It's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For roll call purposes, all council members are in attendance. Ms. Murphy is joining us remotely. At this time, we'll move on the agenda. Next item up is item 5. I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from 5A Special Town Council meeting, January 14, 2025. 5B Regular Town Council meeting minutes, January 14, 2025. 5C Special Town Council meeting minutes, February 4th, 2025. 5D, minutes from regular town council meeting, February 11th, 2025. 5E, minutes from special town council meeting, March 4th, 2025. 5F, minutes from regular town council meeting, March 11th, 2025. 5G, minutes from special town council meeting, March 13th, 2025. 5H, minutes from special town council meeting, March 20th, 2025. And finally, 5I, minutes from special town council meeting, March 29th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Ms. George, seconded by Mr. Grandelski. I will open up for questions, comments, corrections on any of these.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
on
Grandelski.
page 339, on roll call, council president except Mr. Grandelski. I was here, I came in late because at the bottom I made the motion to adjourn. So I think I came in about 6 o'clock. Whatever, just,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other corrections, questions, or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on in the agenda. Next item up is item 6A, proclamation recognizing the Killenly Wrestling Team. Just bear with me 1 second, please. Whereas the Killenly High School Wrestling Team has displayed exceptional talent, discipline, and teamwork during the 2024-2025 season and finished the season with an impressive record of 32 wins and 2 losses. And whereas on February 22nd, 2025, Killenly High School secured their 3rd consecutive Class S championship with a commanding victory over Stafford by a score of 225.5 to 172. And whereas the team celebrated 1 individual champion and 6 finalists, showcasing their strength, determination, and depth of talent. And whereas this victory marks the team's 4th Class S title in the past 5 years and their 8th championship title in the program's history. And whereas the team's success is a result of their dedication to training, resilience, and overcoming challenges, and a strong sense of unity, all of which have been integral to their continued improvement throughout the season. And whereas the members of the Killenly Wrestling Team and their coaching staff and supporters have demonstrated exemplary sportsmanship, hard work, and commitment to excellence. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Killenly Town Council hereby extends its heartfelt congratulations to the Killenly High School Wrestling Team on their outstanding achievement of winning the 2025 Class S Championship. We honor their hard work, perseverance, and dedication to the sport, and we look forward to even greater success in the years to come. Killenly Town Council Chair Jason Anderson, dated at Killenly, Connecticut, this 8th day of April 2025.
Come on up, let's go, we gotta get a picture, let's go. We're gonna get right by the podium and or whatever it is.
Jason, why don't we have them come up behind, and you guys can all stand up over here, and we can crunch together for
Okay.
a picture.
So how we're gonna do this, we're gonna have you come around.
Do you want to sit, Tammy?
Sit, we're all gonna sit.
Sit.
We'll
Okay.
sit down, and you guys can stand up behind us.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Yep, sit.
Sit? Okay.
Sit, slide your chairs over.
Sit and slide.
We're gonna
slide,
sit,
yep.
they're gonna stand behind us, try and slide your chairs in.
Like we actually like each other, you mean?
Nice job. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Everybody get behind him. Ed, can I have you go around?
Sure, no problem.
On the side of the wall over here. You can take this empty chair right here, if you want. Okay? Are you gonna stand in the back of the room on a chair, right? Everybody in, ready, set? All right.
Coach, Coach, Coach Bowen?
If you wanna say something, you can.
Is that their copy, or we're getting? We'll have to print it, see what's printed on it.
Is it? Yeah. I'd like to thank the council for recognizing us. This team really, for me, was a great experience. We had a lot of seniors. They're not all here tonight, but we had 10 seniors on this team who worked with me throughout the last 4 years, putting in a lot of hard work and dedication to get to this point. Couple things, the guys that were with me, I think are, where's Coach Brad? What was our record? Well, yeah, 105-9, I think. He won our dual meets. We set a record for Killingly, and we were second in the state with our 80 match win streak, which went from gosh, I don't know, 2022 to this year. We lost a match by a point, and you know, that was our first loss in a while, but we came back and we got the championship at the end. I'm going to have Brady stand up because I like to recognize him especially. He's my senior captain and with me for the last 4 years. He set Killingly's career win record at 187 wins. Just amazing. And he's really, you know, the leader of the squad throughout the last 2 years, demonstrating just outstanding young man. He's going to be going to school at Rhode Island College. Going to wrestle and just came off the baseball field playing baseball too. So, you know, great kid, and this is what we, you know, like to see from our students here. He's a great student athlete and moving on. The rest of the guys, great team. When somebody got down, they picked it up. I had different students at different times get in there and get wins that I didn't expect. We have a bunch of champions in here from the ECC, and as you said, we had 6 kids in the finals. We only had 1 champ, but that's what got us the win, you know, throughout. Just a great team effort. And when we go places, people know Killingly Wrestling. You know, so it's, you know, I'm real proud of these guys. I'm hoping that we can come back and maybe do it again. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on the agenda. Next item up is item 6B, proclamation recognizing April 2025 as Alcohol Awareness Month. Whereas Alcohol Awareness Month was established in April 1987 by the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, Incorporated, NCADD, to increase public awareness and understanding of alcohol-related issues. And whereas Alcohol Awareness Month serves as a reminder of the importance of education, prevention, and treatment for those affected by alcohol use disorders. And whereas it is essential to provide resources, guidance, and support to those who struggle with alcohol misuse and to foster healthier behaviors in our community. And whereas by recognizing Alcohol Awareness Month, we encourage individuals to make informed decisions, seek help when available, and contribute to a community that supports those in need of recovery. And whereas local organizations, health professionals, and community leaders in Killingly are dedicated to raising awareness, promoting prevention programs, and offering treatment services for those affected by alcohol-related issues. And now therefore be it resolved that the Killingly Town Council does hereby proclaim April 2025 as Alcohol Awareness Month and urges all residents to recognize this observance by learning more about the effects of alcohol misuse, supporting prevention and recovery efforts, and helping to reduce the stigma surrounding alcohol. Killingly Town Council, Jason Anderson, Chairman, dated at Killingly, Connecticut, this 8th day of 2025. We'll now move on to item 6C, proclamation recognizing April 2025 as Autism Awareness Month. Ms. George, if you could.
Whereas autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder that affects individuals in areas such as communication, social interaction, and behavior, with approximately 1 in 36 children diagnosed in the United States. And whereas Autism Awareness Month was established to raise awareness about autism, promote understanding, and encourage acceptance for individuals with autism and their families. And whereas the month of April is dedicated to increasing public awareness of autism and to fostering greater inclusion, understanding, and support for those with ASD. And whereas individuals with autism possess unique abilities and perspectives that enrich our communities, and it is important to promote an inclusive and supportive environment that helps individuals with ASD thrive. And whereas Killingly is committed to supporting individuals with autism by providing resources, raising awareness, and promoting education to reduce stigma and encourage acceptance. Whereas local organizations, advocacy groups, and individuals in Killingly continue to make a positive impact through their efforts to educate, raise awareness, and provide services and support for those affected by autism. Now therefore be it resolved that the Killingly Town Council does hereby proclaim April 2025 as Autism Awareness Month and urges all residents to join in raising awareness, understanding, and acceptance of autism, and to celebrate the diversity and contributions of individuals with autism. Killingly Town Council Jason Anderson, dated at Killingly, Connecticut, this 8th day of April 2025.
Thank you, Ms. George. We'll now move on the agenda. Next item up is item 6D, proclamation recognizing April 2025 as Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Ms. Wakefield.
Proclamation recognizing April 2025 as Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Whereas distracted driving continues to be a leading cause of motor vehicle accidents, injuries, and fatalities across the United States, with millions of lives affected each year. And whereas distracted driving includes any activity that diverts attention from driving, such as texting, talking on the phone, eating, adjusting in-vehicle technology, and other distractions that compromise a driver's ability to focus on the road. And whereas April has been designated as Distracted Driving Awareness Month to raise awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, encourage safe driving practices, and reduce the number of lives lost due to this preventable behavior. And whereas it is critical for drivers, passengers, pedestrians, and cyclists to understand serious consequences of distracted driving and to make a commitment to focus on the road and avoid distractions when driving. And whereas Killingly is committed to promoting safe driving, raising awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, and supporting local efforts to reduce accidents and save lives. And whereas local organizations, law enforcement agencies, schools, and community groups in Killingly continue to educate the public about the dangers of distracted driving and provide resources to help prevent accidents and injuries. Now therefore be it resolved that the Killingly Town Council does hereby proclaim April 2025 as Distracted Driving Awareness Month and urges all residents to take part in promoting safe driving practices, remain focused on the road, and help reduce the dangers of distracted driving in our communities. Killingly Town Council, Jason Anderson, Chairman, dated at Killingly, Connecticut, this 8th day of April 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Wakefield. We'll now move on the agenda, and the next item up is item 6E, presentation of Water Pollution Control Authority fiscal year 2025 to 2026 budget. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Ben Gilmore, the plant superintendent. This is
Pat McLaughlin, Chairman of the Water Pollution Control Authority. Pat McLaughlin, Chairman of the Killingly Water Pollution Control Authority.
okay. So this budget was presented to the commissioners, and they brought it to you. The next slide shows WPCA expenditures. These are the projected expenditures we have for fiscal 25-26. There is a slight increase in cost for personnel. We're looking for more trained staff and licensed operators, so we wanted to be able to hire some Class 1s and Class 2s, so that would increase that line item a bit. Under contractual services, most of these are incremental increases that did not change too much, but a couple of ones to note. Contractual services support has gone up and considerably, and electricity has also gone up by about $100,000. The nature of electricity and the fixed costs at the plant has made that push us a little bit over our line item budget for this year. So to project out for next year, we believe those two costs should go up. Wanted to thank Jen and her finance team for providing a lot of these line items to us, from health insurance, 50230 down to 50239, self-insured contribution. A lot of those have not changed. Some of them have gone a little bit lower as far as debt service. And then contingency went up a little bit on this page. for page 2. Under expenditures, one of the main ones here is chemicals, which we go out to bid in May and June. So our best estimate on previous usage and future usage puts that line item at $275. And then the only thing to note briefly is repair parts. We're trying to do more items in-house with our operators. So that has gone up a little bit so that we could have parts that the operators could use to do repairs in-house as opposed to paying a service contractor to do it. So that's why that is increasing to $55,000. And then as far as capital outlay, that's kind of discussed on a few pages after. We could get back to that. Bringing the total budget to $6,200,253, a little bit less than last year. The next slide shows just a graph of some of the more common items that are in expenditures, just to give you some visuals on what is expended. And then next slide for financial revenue summary. The bulk of this is sewer use charges, bringing our overall revenues and expenditures to that number I'd mentioned, $6,200,253.
Ben, does this reflect a percentage increase in sewer user rates?
Yes. Overall, yeah, we didn't want to pull from the fund balance too much so that we make that budget whole, and with this, that represents a 4-point increase overall in the sewer use rate, which ends up being about $22.42 increase over last year.
For the average resident?
For the average resident, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
For a single family use.
For a single family, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
correct. And then the next slide, sewer use charges, kind of breaks down what each town and each business, major ones, are using. Obviously, every year this will change to a degree based upon flow usage or loading. Brings it to the overall bottom line. Once again, the $6,092,253. And then next slide is capital non-recurring and capital projects. The capital projects for $465,000 are items that we identified that we'd like to get done that might be more urgent or necessary items that may have been trimmed out of the upgrade from a few years ago. But that's subject to WPCA approval on what we're going to focus on. And then sewer line replacement went down a little bit since last year. We've done sewer lining and things at North River Road. And then capital non-recurring is our capital contribution for aging equipment, and that went up about $20,000 from last year, totaling $985,000 total for CNR and capital projects. Any questions about anything?
Just one thing, minor thing for clerical purposes, or clarification purposes. You had mentioned that it was a 4% increase over last year's. I'm assuming you meant the current year.
Yes. Yes, over the current year, correct.
Thank you.
And so they've scheduled their public hearing for that rate increase. Obviously, that's part of the requirements before they establish a new rate. That public hearing for the rate increase is scheduled for this month, April 16th.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, April 16th, right? At 5 o'clock at the plant, correct? And so, the town council, you guys have an item later on in your agenda for accepting this budget as presented. And they would proceed with that process before they then adopt a new rate.
Thank you.
So just to clarify too, though, the contractual support that you said went up a little bit, that's mostly sludge disposal? And
The bulk of that is about 650 to 700,000 a year is sludge disposal, hauling, and incineration. Correct. And that is done through the Metropolitan District in Hartford. And last year, we had an increase of 25% for dry ton, which we're not a member town, so that is out of our control for how much that cost, unfortunately.
Thank you. Mr. Granowski.
Do you know what the fund balance is? We have that.
$1.5 million?
That's all we know.
somewhere in that neighborhood. I
Yeah.
didn't bring that sheet with me, but it's less than 2 million, I believe.
Yeah, they're under 2 million. They had utilized fund balance.
2 years ago, yes. 800,000 thereabouts.
See, that's a small amount. It would be nice to have a little more buffer in that, because if something should go wrong, I mean, everything down there is the high dollar items. And, but, you know, you guys are working on that. It's making it happen, so appreciate that. But I don't know how we can increase that or somewhere get a windfall from DEP or clean water money or something, just wishful thinking, but it'd be nice, you know, so this is a,
It would be really nice to get our permit from DEP, but.
oh, that's over 3 years sitting at DEP.
So part of that is that they're no longer utilizing fund balance to offset operating expenditures.
Correct.
Which is what had been depleting the fund balance. So
Yeah.
recognizing that they are kind of at that threshold, they've eliminated that utilization of fund balance. So now you will, you know, usually there is a minor residual balance at the end of the year of remaining funds. They typically don't overexpend. They're pretty diligent that way, so you might see some, you know, minor uptick in that over time again, just as what had previously happened, how it built up in the first place. So, but that is just a purposeful mechanism to stop depleting that fund balance.
Well, that's what I was getting at, we have the fund balance, that's more the emergency type of fund, and hopefully we can budget through the normal budgeting process and get the work done that has to get done over there. So, but, you know, I'd like to say it a little bit bigger, but, you know, wishful thinking, but as long as we're, keep the plant running.
Yeah, there's a different philosophies about how big the fund balance should be, but because we are dependent on one big customer, ours, you know, might be higher than some sewer authorities, but, you know, it's like 33% of our operating costs, but it was higher, but we kind of drew that down because essentially it's the user's money, you know, the ratepayers' money, so you don't want to have too big a fund balance either. You know, it's kind of a balancing.
But you need that, because if something really happens, where
Well,
do you
it's-
go? Say,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
have to take, if you needed $2.5 million, where would you get the other? And
Yeah,
that could
no.
happen over, you know, it's like, I just,
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not nice to have a big fund balance, but
But-
there's other, you know, ways of looking at it, like you shouldn't be
Yeah,
holding
yeah.
on to all the ratepayers' money either, you know, I mean, but.
Yeah,
so-
it's definite balance to be had, and they've had some really good conversations around that.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Michelle, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. I mean, it might be nice then at some point to see a comparison of how much money you saved on those outside contractors doing the in-house work next year. You know, it'd be a bonnet, a plus in your bonnet.
Yes, absolutely. We just, one capital project that comes to mind is grit pump valves, and we're trying to do that ourselves with our trained staff as opposed to shopping it out. I could probably get a quote on that to see what that would have cost, and I'd assume it'd be $20,000 or $30,000 to do it in-house, less.
Yeah, stuff like that be excellent for you to show the public.
26 valves, so if we could save money, it's a good place to start.
Any other questions from council? Ms.
And as
Grandelsky?
far as we were trying to get more staff down there and having a hard time recruiting people, I mean, it is a sewer plant, you know, it's a tough.
Yes, for my tenure there, we've struggled a little bit to get people, hopefully it's not a reflection of me, but we're hiring a new staff member this Monday. He's starting,
Okay.
so.
So I think that's part of, that's got a little part and parcel with the industry, right? So there's not a whole lot of Class 1, Class 2 operators that are out there. There's, you know, it's definitely been a struggle for people that have come in as OITs, operators in trainings, to start to progress through those and get their Class 1 and Class 2. We've tried to provide additional resources, you know.
Oh, that's what I'm kind of.
The math has
Yes.
definitely been a
Yes.
struggle. The
Yes.
math, I think, has definitely been a struggle. And, you know, a lot of the individuals that are coming into this industry at this point in time have been, I would say, out of a classroom environment for a pretty good length of time. So going back to studying habits can be a bit challenging to get through that. So, you know, that's just been an identified challenge within the industry, and I hear it from all across the state when we talk about wastewater operators, and getting licensed operators in is challenging even in more populated areas. Out here, I think it's an even bigger struggle.
Correct. Currently, we only have, besides management, we only have 2 licensed staff members, which is on the low side.
Very low side. And, you know, we try and support those other staff that are trying to go for their licensing. And I will say, they're trying, right? It's not that the staff isn't trying. I don't want to give the indication that staff is just, you know, getting the job and not trying to proceed with licensing. They are, and they continue to go. It's just been a struggle. And, you know, we're trying to provide them those additional resources in order for them to pass those tests. But the testing process, I think, categorically has been a challenge. And I know that at the state level, we've started to try and have those conversations around re-looking at the testing process to see if it can be more closely aligned with what they actually see in the field versus right now, their math is done really longhand for the most part. There's not a huge amount of, so it's a lot of memorization, rote memorization as well. It's a challenge for that. So we've been having conversations at the state level as well to see if there's improvements that can happen.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from council? Do you have anything further for us?
Do not.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Now, moving on to the agenda, item 7, unfinished business for town meeting action, and we have nothing this evening, so we'll now move on to item 8, citizen statements and petitions. Just ask you to come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have a 5-minute time allotment with a 45-minute aggregate. Ms. Calori, did we have anything submitted by email?
We had none submitted by email.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Nancy Grandelsky from 877 Upper Maple Street in Dayville. I would like the following comments to be incorporated in the official minutes of this meeting. I have a couple of things that are concerning me that I would like to discuss. The first one is an article that has been circulating on Facebook's Quiet Corner, Connecticut Pets Lost Found Adoption page. The name of the article is Gloucester Police, Former ACO Dispute Accounts of Kill Shelter Following Death of 3 Dogs. The article is not flattering regarding the ACO, which was fired. Reportedly, the ACO now is working for NECOG Animal Control. According to NECON's website, and this is confusing because you look at their website and then you look at their work plan, they have different statistics. But according to their website, 10 employees work in the Animal Services Program, but in the work plan, there's 8 full-time employees and 4 part-time kennel cleaners. And these 8 to 10 people cover 20 towns, as it says on their website. But in actuality, if you count the towns, there are 22 towns, and the Mashantucket and Mohegan Tribe and the U.S. Navy subbase, which is listed as part of the Animal Services in the work program and budget. And Norwich is a city and should not be listed as a town. Norwich, the tribes, and the U.S. Navy subbase are not in the Northeast. And including these areas south of Killingly takes away from the animal services we receive. The feral cat trap and release program listed on the NECOG website and work plan is not operating. And NECOG is fortunate that the Paws Shelter in Putnam is doing such a great job of trap and release of feral cats in the Northeast. NECOG should support them. Reportedly, Animal Services receive in excess 8,000 calls, conducts approximately 450 investigations, and places approximately 450 animals. I found that, and this information is on their website, I found that number surprising. When I ran the Killingly shelter with another part-time ACO in Killingly for 3 years in the early 90s, we placed approximately 300 animals a year from the Killingly pound. The public has spoken negatively in the past about the way the NECOG's animal service program is run. It does not receive any oversight. There should be an educated professional with experience and an animal science degree overseeing the regional animal control program. NECOG's a peculiar organization, does not answer to anyone. It supervises itself. I'm happy Mary Calario found a job at NECOG. She said on Winnie Radio that she was not leaving the town of Killingly due to the statements Ed Grandelsky made. I was upset when I heard this on the radio. I believe Mary's going to NECOG because they pay her their executives very well. The 24-25 budget listed $70 to $80 an hour for executive pay. This comes out between $145,000 and $166,000 a year. That's very excellent pay without all the headaches and responsibilities of being a town manager. Furthermore, my husband Ed works very hard and is dedicated to the town of Killingly. I felt so sad that Mary made this statement on Winnie Radio. I thought it was extremely rude, mean, and unprofessional. In closing, I hope the people who care about animals speak out about the inferior animal service programs we have. I must question NECOG's validity. I believe the Northeast Transit District is a very needed entity in our area, but the overhead of NECOG is questionable at a time when there are cutbacks everywhere. The individual towns should take back their animal control programs so they can be run sanely and humanely. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Last call for public comment. Seeing no more public comment, we'll move on in the agenda. Next item up is council and staff comments.
If I may, very briefly. Ms. Grandelsky, I truly appreciate your comments, and I want you to know that I meant no disrespect to Mr. Grandelsky in my comment on Winnie. There was a lot of comments that were being made that when Ed and I were having our conversation earlier in that meeting, that somehow our conversation triggered my reason for providing my resignation. And I had said that in that meeting, that my resignation had nothing to do with the give and take that Mr. Grandelsky and I had had. I deeply respect Mr. Grandelsky and all that he has done and committed to this community. So I meant no disrespect by that. There was a lot of people that were making comments that for some reason our give and take that night was what somehow led to an explosive resignation. That wasn't the case. So I apologize if that came across as unprofessional and disrespectful to Mr. Grandowski. It was never that intent. I know, and that's why I had purposely said in that meeting that it had nothing to do with our give and take. And I reiterated that on Winnie because I knew that I think he was getting undue comments and pressure around that because our comments, our communication that night didn't have anything to do with my giving my resignation and taking a different position. It just was the timing of how it occurred, and that's why I made that continued comment because I knew that he was getting undue criticism for our exchange that night, and then ultimately me giving my resignation. So again, I deeply respect Ed and everything, Mr. Grandowski, that you have contributed to the community and contributed to this council in the many years of serving. I truly do.
Thank you. And just for the public, just one definitive fact that backs up what Ms. Colorio said. The letter of resignation she had for the council was already printed out before that meeting even occurred. So anything that happened in that meeting, any conversation, the decision was made prior to that meeting even happening. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I apologize for that. But again, I knew that there was a lot of people that were giving undue criticism, which is why I had reiterated that. So again, I apologize for that.
Mr. Chair, with respect to NECOG, there was a couple individuals that contacted me to discuss the conditions of the pound, how they could volunteer their services to build a new pound, but they wouldn't come over there. And they don't want their name mentioned. And then I says, well, it's not a Killingly. Yes, it's not a Killingly issue, it's a NECOG issue. And I said, but Killingly is part of the animal control, and I can't get them to come out and do whatever they want to do. Other individuals talked, as my wife said, they're all the way down to the sub-base. How can we be doing things for the tribes? That's totally, I don't know, again, I'm getting this, I don't get it as much as she does. But if they're spread out that thin, it's kind of tough. I know in the past, I mean, there was, quite a few people were, knocking on her door, and of course, I'm happened to be there listening in on the conversations. But again, nobody wants to complain because they don't want their name broadcast that they're creating hate and discontent or whatever it might be. And so, I don't know if there's any oversight. Do we get any, I think in here, there should be training about, where does it say something about training in here? I don't know if that's, or public, where is it? I just caught this earlier today, so I haven't had a chance to really read this, the contract itself. But they will put on, they will make its staff available for public speaking events. I don't know if they've ever done that. They'll provide, NECOG shall further provide visual aids in the form of brochures, handouts, and other appropriate material. I don't know, do we get any of that from them? What is?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the program really expanded substantially over the last several years under John Filchek. I know with Jim coming on board, he's mentioned a few times at the NECOG meetings that he's been spending a lot of time reviewing the animal services, the animal control program itself, trying to kind of get a better handle on that. I think he had mentioned that a couple of the towns were going to be making arrangements with, they were going to be leaving that service, that regional service.
Yeah, there's a few towns that are leaving, and they're doing more extensive training for their animal control staff.
Right.
He's started that up.
So I do have, I actually just received it, so it wasn't in your packet, but I do have, they are now sending us statistics of like cases and things like that. So we'll be providing that to you all as frequently as they come in. So I know Jim has been trying to take kind of a fresh new look at all of this and try and, that is, I think, the largest, most widespread program that he inherited when he taking that position, and that's one that he's really trying to get his arms wrapped around and see how it can be functioning in a better way. Jim has expressed that he's more than willing to come and talk to the town council or, do any type of public speaking. So if that's something the council would like to be able to schedule, I can reach out to him and see about getting that, scheduled so you guys can have a conversation.
One thing I will add about Norwich, I don't know that the board even knew we were servicing Norwich. Jim had mentioned that a couple months ago, and he's remedied that. He sent them a hefty bill.
Yeah.
Because we were apparently, and I don't want to speak out of turn or throw John under the bus, but we had provided some services to Norwich, and like you said, they're outside our area, like Nancy said. But he just sent them a pretty big bill to make up for, that they are not in our service area. But he went through and he covered those expenses, had them pay for those expenses. Now, whether they're going to continue on, I don't know that. But I know we have some towns leaving, and I can get that update, which towns are going on their own or, going with another service. I can get that this month.
But that's what I'm saying, a lot of that, nobody, it's
So
removed far enough that it's
Yeah.
hard to get a good feel as to what, are we getting what we're paying for? Maybe
Yeah.
that's.
And I think that, under the former NECOG administration, we didn't, the viewpoint was that the council liaison, the town liaison, was to communicate everything that was happening with NECOG to their respective bodies. And he didn't necessarily come and participate at a lot of direct meetings. I think there's a different philosophy around that now with new administration. And so Jim is, I think, willing to at least be more direct in those communications with the towns and not just leaving it to the liaisons to try and remember everything that was discussed at a NECOG meeting however many weeks ago. We all do liaison reports. You can't always remember everything. And to talk through what are those, if there's specific concerns, I think he'd rather have the conversation early to understand what the concerns are and how we can come to solution around those. So I would encourage a conversation or having Jim come and meet with you guys to talk through that.
Jason, are there any other options for Killingly? Because NECOG is just another arm of the state, and we know that they're not very good with their money. They'll just raise our taxes because we already are paying to NECOG.
Going forward into this current the upcoming fiscal year, the budget we're deliberating on now, we really don't have any viable options. We would have had to have had something in place a long time ago.
Even for future?
That's something we can always look into, but like I said, we'd have to get into the planning process now to even consider having any kind of other option for the 26-27 fiscal year.
Can I just say, NECOG's not part of the state. Like you said, they're their own, I contacted them.
They're their own entity.
They're their own being. They do
Entity.
what they want to do.
Maybe they're their own being, but they still are part of the state.
No, they're
Do we want to make a motion to allow the amendment of the rules to allow the public to speak on this further?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Whitehead, seconded by Ms. George. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I got a
Motion
question
passes.
for you. Are the animals being mistreated at the pound?
I will
Nancy-
just ask, yeah, either come up to the podium or up to the table. That way the public can hear. Thank you, Nancy.
I do
Totally.
not believe they're being mistreated. However, there is not enough people to care for them as appropriately as they should.
Should be. That is a huge area.
So that's mistreating in my
Well,
opinion.
I would, maybe there's some neglect, because that skeleton's crew cannot do the job. It's impossible.
And are all those
That's horrible.
municipalities contributing to NECOG, Northeast?
Yes, they all
Council?
pay for animal control services.
And so towns are pulling out, so maybe they're sick of the same situation.
Well, they did have two very large, substantial cases. They had one involve, how many horses? They
For
had
which
two,
one?
Oh,
Well,
the one here was
Was it-
That
One
one
was-
was killingly
14
paid.
or 15.
yeah, how many were there?
We had 15.
Recently, it was Sterling and Woodstock.
Yeah, Sterling had a large case, and Woodstock still has the large case ongoing.
That's still in court, right?
That's still in court.
And what was, it was over 100
100
dogs?
animals.
And over 100 animals were just so they're scrambling. I wouldn't say it's abuse, I wouldn't say it's, they're on their staff, they're doing what they can. But like, one case is still in court, they have homes lined up for these animals, but then the woman appealed the case. So now they're still having to board and take care of these animals until the court decides, does she get them back, or do we get to give them to these homes? So it's a little more complicated than.
And I don't,
But it's their responsibility, right?
right.
Right,
So
but
they
but
took-
with
they
that
took the
being
contract
said,
on,
yep,
good or bad, they take the contract on, so.
right. I
if
don't
an animal's
understand the
being
Pequot and Fox, so I don't
neglected,
understand that.
Then
I,
that's horrible.
I will say I'm not, yeah, I would want to make sure that we get the direct information from Jim with regards to the number of staff, the number of part-time, and if there's volunteer staff
I
that
was
they're
just gonna
also
ask that, do they have
utilizing.
volunteers like pause?
Again, I would want to make sure that we get that information from them. I'm not exactly sure. I know that there hasn't been a significant focus yet on completely revamping and redoing the information on their website. So I'm not, I know you saw conflicting information on their website, and, you know, we should probably make sure we have the correct numbers and the correct scope of what is actually happening for the organization. Because there may be some misinformation on that. So, again, I think it would be beneficial to have an entire conversation about and let them lay out, like, what is the actual plan and what changes have happened. I know Jim has been trying to make steady incremental changes in order to be able to improve that service. What are those changes? And I don't have them readily off the top of my head. I don't know if you recall them from meetings. I know he reports on them periodically, but
What
I don't
I
recall
can
them
do,
all.
because we get a lot of information on those meetings, Jim now puts out a director's report.
Yeah.
So I can always just, after the meeting, I can share that with all of you guys too.
Yeah,
So you
that's a
can
good
go
idea.
through and dial right down. I can just send it out.
Can I add
Because it's
something?
it's a good report he puts out.
When I ran the pound, we had a woman drive into town with 70 dogs in her van, and we handled it. I mean, Channel 3 News, everybody was there, and what was lovely at the time, all the area pounds took a few dogs. Brooklyn, Killingly had the bulk of them, but everybody, Thompson, Plainfield, everybody stepped in and took 5 or 10 dogs, and we could do it. But now with this 1 pound, which truly is not big enough to handle it was built for this town. Even with the addition, it's still not appropriate. But it worked out. We handled it. And, you know, a lot of people came forward. NECOG now, a lot of people say, you know, it's always closed. You can't get in there. It's not open or welcoming at all.
okay.
And
Yeah,
it's too
I
bad.
would agree.
People
I-
can't go and talk
yeah.
to somebody there and look at the dogs or the cats.
I would say Jim's very new. He's the new director. I think you're gonna see a big difference it's just a different atmosphere, different environment, and he's trying to implement changes that are gonna make it a lot better. But I agree with you, it's a pretty small space for the amount of work they do. And, yeah, I'm gonna find out, I don't know if they use volunteers or not, but that would be something that would probably help too.
Absolutely.
But I will share that report
Yeah.
for each meeting.
And I'll reach out to Jim to see what his availability for like your May meeting or something like that.
Just a simple question. With a facility like that, there's no oversight of it from someone larger, from a state level of,
Oh,
when you
there-
have a facility like this, of how many
There
animals you
is.
can handle, how many cases you would have a year?
Well, Canine Control, the state will come in. They work with the community, but they don't oversee the pound. They're just
Okay.
more of a resource. They can't tell us, I mean, unless we're breaking laws down there. They can't
So
tell
there-
you how to run the pound or how many towns you can have in there.
That's what I was just more curious, if
Right.
there was a.
There is so if there were, we've had the animal control facility had violations in the past around, conditions that were within the facility. Several years ago, 6 years ago, there was a lot of concern around animal handling and concerns around the facility. And so the Department of Ag comes in. And they had done a full evaluation. So there is a state arm that can do some enforcement oversight as well.
But none of that would trigger, like a requirement to.
They do have to do
enlarge the
reporting.
facilities or to say that, they're not.
They have reports they have to do, but
Okay.
as far as, like, so, yeah, like Mary said, like, the inspection reports, things like that. So there is some oversight, but they do run as they're not a state agency.
No,
Mhm.
okay.
Well, again, a group of people went in the prior administration, went to the meeting. Chair of NECOG says there will be no public participation today. Shut them right down.
Well,
I was
can-
chastised because I went in the next month and I said, how dare you? It's on your agenda and you had it on your agenda, you take it off. So people have gone there.
Well, that's what I will say, Ed, that whole culture has changed. Our
So we
NECOG
need-
meetings are open, there's public comment. They're held at the Canterbury Town Hall now, and it's the last Friday of the month, and we have people come in all the time, and there's public comment. We get presentations from different people, but it's very, very open. And Jim is very transparent.
What, like I said, when they were treated like that, nobody, I mean, look at us, we don't get, we're
Yeah, it's
not
hard
bad
for us to
here.
get
We,
people.
I can't get people to come to the podium or whatever.
Right.
And in this situation, they had grievances or what have you, and they were shut down.
Yeah, but
The
it-
volunteers quit, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's very
they
different.
just said,
Yep.
they left.
But it was
So-
also the past administration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so,
I
yeah,
mean,
this-
if they don't come back and say anything, how do we, and it's.
Well, I think that's where you have that cover. You invite the new administration in to come and have a
So that-
conversation with you.
this
So
is
you can
probably a
voice
good time. Yeah,
concerns.
yeah, this is probably a
Right?
good
And you
time to do
can
this.
talk through what may be of, what feedback are you getting currently, right? You can talk through those things and kind of see what the vision might be for the new administration and where they feel that program is going.
I would say Jim is very similar to Luigi over at NDDH, like new sheriff in town, very community engaged, very well respected by the staff, and wants to get out and engage with the community and wants input. So I'm sure he'd be happy to come and speak to everyone.
But it's, like I say, it's tidbits, it's not, how do you, like I said, I don't get enough, she gets a little bit more, because she was in it before, and, whatever else, but again, it's still, I don't want my name discussed. Then how can you make a comment when you don't know if there's something, so maybe a little bit of being televised tonight, it might get somebody out there, look, I don't know, how do you do this? How do you make a change happen? It's very difficult.
Do we
Well,
have
like-
anybody from the town that actually, since it's in our town, inspect these facilities or take a look at them or see if they're humane?
So the the town itself, as far as inspection is concerned, Department of Health has to go through them, but we only go through them if there's building permit requirements or upgrades to the fire system. We don't have, there's no requirement for any periodic inspection of them.
And I haven't been to a NECOG meeting. I was frustrated with that. So to go to see if someone came forward with something, I'm not, I
Come
don't have
join
enough
us.
hours in the day to do.
Come join us at a NECOG meeting.
No, I don't need that. I've got enough that, but, or even if someone would come here, because we pay for a service. If they don't think they're getting the service, just, however, bring it forward and, we'll take a look at it, but you don't want your name mentioned, how can I, and you don't give me enough to say that, it's gross neglect, gross viol, I don't know. But the door was open, so I'm making, like I say, even somebody else, I forget what his trade is, and he wanted to get some tradespeople. He says, I went down in to, look at a dog, I says, you gotta say something. No.
Any other comments? I just want to say thank you, Nancy, for coming forward with all that information.
Thank you.
So we'll move on in the agenda. Next item up is item 10, appointments to boards and commissions. 10A is appointment of regular member to Northeast Department, District Department of Health.
Right there.
There we go. So Ms. George is requesting to become a regular member of the Board of Health for Northeast District Department of Health because there is a recent vacancy. Ms. George is currently an alternate member of the Board of Health. Her new term would run from May 1st, 2025 to April 30th of 2028. Can I get a motion to appoint Ms. George as a regular member?
So
of the
moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Gambatista, seconded by Ms. Wakefield. Discussion?
Well, are you a member representing Killingly, or is there at large, or how does that?
No, she's a Killingly representative.
Okay,
Yep.
again, that's another place that I didn't want to.
So Killingly has 2 regular members and 1 alternate member. Currently, one of our regular members stepped down, so she would be filling that
Okay.
regular member seat for Killingly representation, which would leave the Killingly alternate seat open.
And just so the public's aware, you do not have to be a member of the council to be appointed to the Board of Health. So our alternate vacancy, anyone who's in the public who wants to fill that, feel free to apply for that position.
Well, that's a good point, because I was under the impression we needed, well, no, I guess we did. They weren't currently a council
No.
member. That was,
We had 2 regular citizens.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so historically, you've typically had one of your regular members be a council member. And we did find that as we were going through kind of the more recent change there in the Department of Health, one of the challenges that all of the towns had identified is that many of them had went from having either a member of their Board of Selectmen or Board of Finance as a representative to the NDDH or the council to at-large citizens being, and so they weren't as connected on the financial piece. And so some of the proposals were blindsiding to the financial arms of the town because they weren't active participants. That piece was an active participant on the NDDH board. But with Killingly, we've typically had one of the seats largely held by a council member or a recent council member, and then the other one by an at-large.
Killenly also has the unique distinction of actually the borough has a representative.
Yes, that's right.
And an
Yes,
alternate.
yes,
So
yeah.
technically, on the NDDH board, Killenly has 3 votes by rights.
Yes, we do.
But, you know, our issues and, well, we were doing, what, 2 years ago, it was, so now hopefully
It's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Luigi has done an amazing
He's done
job.
a
You know, it was,
phenomenal job.
And it's not a train that's the lights coming from either.
That's right.
Well, that was the same thing. You talk to people in the restaurant owners, oh no, I will kind of talk to you a little bit. Oh, you can't use my name. The septic installers, oh no, it took them whatever time it took, you know, to get it done. So how do you get that out on any of these scenarios unless you happen to be right in it or for some reason, whatever situation is there, and then but like, yeah, we went through quite a turmoil for,
We caused quite a
now it
ruckus.
looks good, so.
And
I-
I think it
honest-
turned out
honest-
for the best. We learned a lot. I think a lot of us don't realize exactly what NDDH is responsible for overall.
Yes.
I mean, they have a lot on their plate. They have some excellent employees, and the way Luigi has, he's got a game plan. Like, there's, I don't know all the specifics, but a lot of them kind of, I don't know. I look at NDDH kind of like as, what's his name? Used to coach the Patriots, that's awful.
Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
Like, he stacks things, like, you're trained in this, but if I need you here, I can put you here. And that's how they they do their licensing over there. They cross-train quite a bit. And they have a really good plan over the next few years, but you have to keep in mind, for training and for testing and for licensing, the state of Connecticut holds all the keys. So if they're not offering a class to get licensed, it's like once a year, and you're not done your training, you gotta wait till the following year. They don't offer enough testing time in the state, in many different categories. But public health is really, they're affected greatly by the schedule the state offers. And
And
the
the
timing's
problem with a
never
lot of
good.
those offers and those classes, they're on the other side of the state.
Yeah, they're never,
Yeah, we're all,
I mean,
we're left out in the
with-
cold.
In
So
our
they
virtual
really-
world that we have, you would
Yeah.
think that there would be some kind of online testing option, but no, they.
Yeah, and there's really not. And they jump through hoops to do all that they do, and they do a great job.
They-
Like, they have one right now going, we approve, because I'm on the finance committee too, and we have one lady, she's been there a while, she's going to become, she's ranking up this year. So, then they have a couple more next year that will be ranking up. And Luigi he's a sanitarian himself, right?
He is, yeah, so he
can
jumps in.
go- He jumps in and, he'll go right in the field too. So, yeah, there's a lot of changes over there, really good ones.
They face a lot of the same hurdles that the water treatment plant has
Yeah.
with the state and getting their people certified. The other problem they've had over the years, because I was on the board for 10 years, is they come in, they get their training, and they leave.
Right.
Because they're not at the top rung. That's pretty much entry-level money around this area. They'll leave and go to someplace like Hartford where they're gonna make a lot more money.
Well, just to explain how much it's changed over there, so they started a couple of years ago, they had 21 employees. What are they down to, 14 right now? So they're operating on like a third of the staff they had, like pre-COVID. And they're all, their rates are getting better, their percentages of completion are getting better, and, but they could hire a few more people.
I'm honest with you, over the years, that happened a lot of times when leadership was not so good. Their inspections went down, and when they got better leadership in, their numbers come up incredibly fast when you have a good leader kind of giving the morale, and they want to get their stuff done. I will agree with Patty, the employees over there are very, very diligent, and they like what they do, and a lot of them live here, so that's why they do what they do. They could move on and get money paid a lot better other places, but this is their home, and they want to make it a better place, so.
But it was way back when me and my brother were doing installs and whatnot. And you get to know them, it was good. And then they moved to the state. It was like, a couple of them, the guy just retired at the state. This is 30 years ago when I worked, and he was inspecting and whatnot, and I ran into him, and, okay, you know. We had good, he remembered me, and it was in a positive way. It wasn't antagonistic at all. So, it was, yeah, they had good leadership.
They're
It
doing a
was
good
be
job
nice.
over there. And they have, he's what, a retired sanitarian that's helping them out part-time right now?
Yes.
They have someone that, to kind of pick up and, through the transition and through Luigi, you know, getting his feet wet and, yeah, they're doing a really good job. They've shuffled some people around, they've moved some things around, but they're doing a good job. They really are.
Well, in this light, with the sewer moratorium, now, because we can't have a connection, someone puts a septic system in, how do we handle that? They spend 30 grand to put a septic system in, now our moratorium is over. Do we give them,
Case-by-case basis right now.
how does our ordinance handle that? Or, I mean, there was language if you spent, or if the sewer line went by, you know, you just put a new system and you couldn't wait because we're planning on doing a sewer line in that particular area. But if you put that much outlay out for a septic system,
Yeah, you would then keep that system until you get to failure point of the
but do
system,
we
and then
need-
you would.
Do we need something in place that, with this moratorium, that we should be looking at that for?
So Dave and I have started to have that conversation with the town attorney on if there's anything temporary. I don't have any proposed language at this point in time. We're still trying to work through some of the moratorium language, which was the primary
Right,
focus.
that's- I mean, it's a-
So we haven't really kind of started to cross that bridge of, you know, what if somebody needs to put in, you know, a system or a septic. And again, it's by case basis because the moratorium still allows for an emergency connection if it needs to happen. So if somebody has a failed septic system and they have to connect, then they have to connect, right? You know.
Yeah, that's a
so
whole different, but if
that's a whole
someone-
different thing. So
Right, if someone has a single-family house they want to build.
yeah,
well,
but they're having to walk. So that's a
That's a-
case by case basis that we're walking through.
Like I said, I don't know, we put a temporary thing in the ordinance. Again, the moratorium creates a lot of problems that, how do you?
It is.
and I don't know, somebody was giving me a hard time about something and they gave up. They came to the meeting and I'm done. I got an offer I couldn't refuse. I left. I'm leaving town. Okay, fine, but again, but he didn't allow enough time for the system to work. So, but yeah, everybody wants something right away. They want to come in here and get a permit. When you have these type of issues, it's not an instant permit. So I can't answer that question.
Ed,
Go ahead,
Ed, the newest language in the moratorium says the director has say over Mary's case-by-case scenarios. Just so you know, and that's Dave right now.
That's correct. But again, it's done on a very case-by-case basis to, you know, understand what the connection is, what the conditions are. All of those have to be factored in. So there's no clear-cut, definitive, you know, one-size-fits-all answer.
I think that's I like that. It's not one clear cut. That's going to be out there, that this is a moving target. And I cannot answer that question.
No, you have to tell them to call Dave.
Well, I do, but, you know, it's like, it should be clear. It's not. Come down to the meeting. They don't, again, the same thing, come on down. Then, come here, I don't care, you know, here's the situation you're in, let us know what's going on. Or, you know, WPCA, go to their meetings, and as always, everybody hates that podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Are we circumventing the typical procedure? Because normally, I know we know you, but normally you would have to put in an application for a member.
I would just be moving as an alternate to a regular member right
But
now.
normally, like the alternate members still put in that
But I didn't
request,
fill out
right?
an application
So-
to become a,
I will-
because it's a liaison.
So I will say for Department of Health, when it's been a town council member, they typically don't normally go through that process that occurs for other at-large community member applications. It's typically just a general appointment from the town council. They don't go through that same process.
Similar to the Cable Advisory Committee.
Correct.
Now, I have a question. So if I came back, like, say you guys appointed me, like, in 2028, though, would that be an application process? Because then I would be just a community member.
Correct.
Reapplying, so
If-
then I
if you're
would
not
fill
on the
that out.
council at that point,
Okay.
yes.
That
Similar
makes
to Mr. Dave Griffiths.
Yep.
He had served on NDDH when he was on the council, and then after he was off the council and
Right.
sought reappointment, then he came forward for an interview.
Yeah.
So this is normally how it's done when it's a member of the council that's looking to serve. All right. Any more comments? All right. We had a motion and a second. I believe that was a while ago.
Yep.
No more comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
abstain.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Patty's abstaining.
We
I
had
did.
one abstention, was Ms. George. Motion carries.
Thank you for reappointing me. I really enjoy this board. I'm learning a lot.
It is a fun, it is actually a very fun
All right,
and.
so moving on the agenda, next item up is item 11A, Board of Education Liaison, and we do not have a liaison from the Board of Ed here this evening. So we'll move on to 11B, Borough Council Liaison. Ms. Wakefield, if you could.
Oh, has the borough been busy? So we had our caucus, we had our regular meeting on the 19th of March. I mentioned it on Winnie. Similarly to, as the town, Board of Assessment Appeals decisions, lowered the tax assessments for the town at $6 million. They lowered the borough's tax assessments by about $800,000, which caused a significant change in our about probably it was a decent amount of money we lost from tax. The borough budget hold altogether is just under $1 million, so losing that much assessed value and was kind of hurt a little bit. The fire department, we just on the 31st actually, we actually had our caucus. There was only one open counselor seat. Everybody else was, and so basically everybody has agreed to stay on. There was one open spot. Tom Russell has put in for that one spot. We had a clerk treasurer position that had opened up. Somebody had stepped down, and the gentleman that actually had applied to our vision committee actually lives in the borough, came to the caucus, and agreed to step forward, and he's going to fill the clerk treasurer position. Glenn Archambault. He's I actually saw him on Main Street on Saturday, actually. So he's really jumping 2 feet into getting involved in town, and it's good to see, new blood getting involved. Yes, and Monday was our budget meeting. Our budget passed. We had a proposed increase to our mill rate of 0.01 mils. So our new proposed mill rate for the borough is 3.6 Mills, the new fire truck, we will be doing a pre-delivery inspection later this month, with hopefully being delivered before summertime, for our new rescue engine. And we also allocated our LoSiP funding that we received from the state so that we could finish paying for the rest of our SCBA's, which are basically the Scott packs. So the entire inventory of our Scott packs have all been upgraded and replaced, because they do have shelf lives, so to speak. So everything's going well in the borough. We had met about 4 years ago with Real Custom Training. They actually set us up a 5-year plan. We are planning for this fall to do another strategic plan, to come up with to further make another 5-year plan, because basically we've accomplished most of our 5-year strategic plan. The biggest piece being we actually agreed to fund some of the Wi-Fi connection for the Brickyard project, so that when the Brickyard's open, people can be there. They'll be able to hook up to Wi-Fi and do. I mean, everything seems to run on the internet, so that's the last piece of our strategic plan that hasn't been technically, but as soon as the Brickyard is done, that piece will be done. And but yeah, the borough is moving along. Our actual borough elections, if I'm drawing a blank because I don't have the calendar in front of me, I think it's like the beginning of May. It's always held at the library. I'll make sure next month I know I'll be on Winnie Radio
I think it's
promoting
May
it.
5th.
May 5th.
I think it's the same day as our annual town meeting.
Yeah, oh, that's right, too. Now that you're mentioning it, yes. So, but there's usually not a whole big turnout, but yeah, the borough elections are always interesting. Up until, it's a very interesting group because it's not partisan. It's a nonpartisan group. We don't, force because I go down into Jewett City and they actually campaign just like we do for town council down in Jewett City for their borough board. We don't have that up here. It's everybody that steps forward and volunteers and but yeah, things are moving along with the borough, so. And we have a new logo that's been out there. It's where heritage meets progress, I think is the phrase on it. So, but that's that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right. Moving on. Next item up is item 12A, discussion and acceptance of monthly budget reports. Can I get a motion to accept the 12A summary report on general fund appropriations for town government?
So moved.
Motion was made by Mr. Grandelsky, seconded by Ms. Barclay. Discussion, questions, or comments?
I don't know if the question should be, what's the status of the audit?
Yeah, so the audit is finalizing now. You will receive an audit presentation at your May special meeting on May 6th.
Yeah, in regards to that too, I remember the question about, how come it was still late this year? And I forgot at the time that Mrs. Clark was out for like 6 months with an illness. So that second person that was hired to help her was doing it all herself for the first time, and I think that was the delay, you guys.
Thank you.
We're not in any violations because we've always had, we've applied for extensions and whatever.
Correct,
else.
we've
Yeah,
done
so
the
we're good
appropriate
with,
extensions, we
you
are
know.
not in violation. We've done our required reporting for all of our debt issuances, our continuing disclosure that have to be done, we had to do extensions on that, and we've completed that filing.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on to the agenda. Next item up is item 12B. Can I get a motion to accept the system object based on adjusted budget for the Board of Education?
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Gambatista. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Cottula. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention, Mr. Grandelsky. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the agenda. Next item up is item 13A, Town Manager's Report. Ms. Gloria, if you could go over this, please.
Sure, so I took a little bit of a different format on this one. This is my last manager's report to you as the position of town manager. So a couple of things that are coming up, I won't read the whole thing, but next week, the highway department and the contractor will be out starting the process of repaving or removing the track and repaving there, as well as the access road and into the parking lot, the lower parking lot at Owen Bell. So that lower parking lot will be closed for short periods of time. So if anybody's going to Owen Bell, and they should park in the upper parking lot by the Playscape, and they'll have full access. I don't expect that lower parking lot to be closed for any long duration of time. They're going to look to get that completed and buttoned up pretty quickly, and then move all the equipment to the back to work on the walking track. That walking track will be closed for probably a good week as they get through that process. So anybody who normally goes down there and walks, you're going to have a different path that you're going to be walking on, because that area will be closed to the public. We will be completely having that area closed off. The highway department has been replacing the crumbling sidewalks that have been all through that lower part of Owen Bell Park. So all in front of the concession stand to that lower parking lot. And then they're going to be starting to work on the sidewalks that are coming from that area up towards the playground. To get those replaced, they haven't been done in a really long time, so they're going to be working through that. They've also begun drainage projects in preparation for the paving for the upcoming season as well. So highway is, I don't think that they ever got out of full swing. They're in full swing. They also did our harvester that is working at Chase Reservoir. It was incredibly wet in a lot of the area, and they were unable to remove timber without really causing significant damage. And so the highway department created an egress path for the harvester to be able to get that timber out appropriately without really causing any significant damage. So he worked very closely with them on managing that. Ashley and Kelly have been working incredibly diligently on the town's website. I will say it is tedious to get through that website. They have to, check every document, every link, every font, every page. You don't really recognize how many pages are on a town website until you start going literally page by page, document by document. It's been a very heavy lift. They are getting very close to completion on that, and in about a month, they should be launching the brand-new website. I will say I've seen the new website. The functionality of it is wonderful. It's so much better than what we're currently working with. And it does have a much more modern and user-friendly experience. So very excited to see that come about to provide that to everyone. As they get closer, Ashley will be providing you all with direct links, so that way you can check out that experience. Recreation, they are opening up they've got their registration going for Camp Wallaby. That's a very popular program. And we're closing in on Red, White, and Blue celebration this year. It's hard to believe that's right around the corner. And many of their spring classes are full. They are also working on their summer programming, which largely is full, and they're working through their fall programming. I actually got to attend the Wizard of Oz this past Saturday. I did the sensory program. I am so grateful that Holly and her team have integrated a sensory experience for the theater programs for each of the productions. It has been wonderful, and having a little kiddo that needs to have that slightly altered experience is really great. But I will say, there's one more weekend of Wizard of Oz, I can't recommend it enough. If sitting in that audience, if you close your eyes, you actually think you're listening to Judy Garland. The lion is spot on. I mean, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, spot on. They did an amazing job, these guys. So if you have an opportunity, you can tell that they put their heart and soul into each of those productions. And they're great job. Our library, they're gearing up for their summer reading programs. They have a growing summer reading program, and so they will be doing that. And they're still collaborating with the Giant Room, so they're getting ready to launch their next collaboration for another book experience for people to create another book with the Giant Room experience. So that's been a huge hit. A lot of our kids that have participated in this, they actually get trading cards or a book at the end that, they're published. It's their name. It's their actual creation that's in that book. It's really a great opportunity. And kids you can see they're like, oh my God, there's my name in a book. It's really, really great. That's kind of some of the stuff. I will be getting to you some additional legislative information. We just had our CCM LegCom meeting today to go over some of kind of what we're seeing in legislation. I will say that it does seem as though that there is a lot of appetite to waive the municipal spending cap requirements for the current year. We were advocating for them to be eliminated entirely. Legislature never wants to eliminate entirely, but there seems to be some appetite with regards to that. So we're waiting to hear some definitive information around that. So as soon as I have more information, I will get that out to you all. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Grandelsky?
you can.
Okay, couple things. First two are in regards to the new town website.
Yep.
Are we gonna have a link on that to the financial transparency software?
Yes.
Okay. Second thing I had, and this one popped in my head a couple days ago, because I had somebody asking me, they had mentioned, well, I never know when meetings are. Because I had talked about people coming out to me, we were having a conversation, well, come to the meeting. Well, I don't know when they are. It's on the website. Is there a way, I know we had, I think it was Red Alert, where there'd be notifications to go out to town if you signed up for it.
Yep.
Is there a way on this new website where we could have the ability for, let's say a resident wanted to be notified when there were planning and zoning meetings, or when there were town council meetings, a way to where they could sign up on there and get notifications for it.
Ashley and Kelly were working on that today.
Awesome.
I was actually listening to them. They were actually using John LaBelle as an example, right? Like, Mr. LaBelle is going to want to know when there's a council meeting or a special town council meeting, and, you know, if he signs up for it, how is he going to get that notification, right? So I was just listening to them talking about this. So, yes, they are actively talking to them about making sure that we have some sort of notification system so people can go on and they can ask, they want to get notified about Board of Recreation meetings, right? Or Vision Committee meetings,
Yeah.
or whatever that
That's
is. They'll be able to get that.
That is great.
They
That
will
is
need to
awesome.
sign up for it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And they will need to
Yep.
check probably an email to make sure for
Yep.
their notification, right? But they were just working on that today.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's normally like a subscribe feature.
Exactly, yeah,
So-
yeah. They have that was definitely one of the key components that they were like, we need to make sure.
Yeah.
So they were just talking about it today. You were listening in the office, right? No, I'm only kidding.
No, honestly, no. The other thing I would just ask as a request, I know we have the public hearing on Thursday. With the whole, as you had mentioned, they're looking to change the legislation as far as the municipal spending cap and the penalties. Can we have, because when I went back and looked at it, I know that that is still listed in the revenue page. Is there a
Yes.
way we can see, because there's no guarantee that's actually gonna pass to where we don't.
So the information that I got today from CCM, it seemed as though that legislation was going to move to vote and passage in the next couple of days.
Okay.
So you may have some final determination around that before you get into deliberations.
Okay. I would just like, if you could have a slide that shows if this doesn't happen,
Sure.
what the impact would be on the mill rate. That
Sure.
way, the public is aware that it is a potential, but also
Well-
bring up what you just talked about, how it's a possibility that,
So it wouldn't necessarily be an impact to the mill rate, because you would likely set the mill rate before, if that legislation doesn't occur right now, and it wouldn't happen until, say, the implementer bill, it would be a loss of revenue. So we wouldn't achieve the budget revenue. So it would be actually a potential decrease to fund balance, because you have a
Okay,
revenue
so
hole,
that's
right?
where- okay.
So it's not necessarily it would increase the mill rate potentially for the subsequent year if it were the same problem, right? But it wouldn't be a decrease to mill rate, it would be an impact because of
it's gonna get absorbed by.
a loss of revenue, so it would end up dropping to fund balance.
I mean, if it was
And-
small enough, would it come out of the contingency, though?
No, so it would just be a loss of revenue. It would just be a revenue hole, if you will. It doesn't get, it's on the revenue side, not the expenditure side. Mr. Anderson, I just realized you didn't open the public hearing at 7 o'clock. For your next item on the agenda.
Yep, okay, very faint writing on my agenda.
Because
That's how
it
I
was
missed
read.
All right, so in a situation like this,
I just got one question.
Go ahead.
yeah,
So with the walking track, where would the construction access be for that, when we do that?
They're gonna go through where the maintenance garage is.
Through the lower parking lot?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it behoove us to do the lower parking lot after
Um,
construction access?
Not necessarily. Once they move the equipment back there, they're gonna pave it, they're gonna move the equipment back there, and then when they come back out, it's no different
Are they
than
paving
any.
back there?
They are. So it'll be no different than moving a typical piece of equipment out. It's not gonna be
But you'll
a
have
constant
trucks.
roll of traffic.
We have trucks in and out of there, right, with paving, with asphalt?
Not that much. It's not that big of a track. So, yeah, it wouldn't be that detrimental. Normally, I would agree, yes, we would go back and then out, but we don't want to keep the lower parking lot closed for that long, because you have active sports and rah-rahs and the park itself, so
Well, you wouldn't
it's,
have to close it, right? You just do the back part, do the back and then reclaim and do whatever you're gonna do in the parking lot. I'm
to
just
some
saying,
extent,
it's just
to
a lot
some
of wear and
extent,
tear.
yes.
Okay.
Matt's been working through that.
All right, in lieu of the fact that I did not open the public hearing at 7 PM, actually, before we go on to that, are there any other comments regarding town manager's report?
On the Chase Reservoir, the timber landing, and making that into a parking lot, that came up at the conservation meeting. Is that, how can we take advantage of that? Because there's very little parking at Chase Reservoir. It's way down, on
Yeah,
Pratt.
that could be something that that the town opts to, and just, the pad what's been installed is something that can remain. It doesn't have to be removed.
Maybe I think that's where we're going. We don't have to do it right now, but leave whatever's there, don't take it. Or if we can, if there's a snafu with that, but I would like to keep parking if we can enhance the parking down there. And
Sure.
this is an opportunity to do that.
Okay, yep. And I know that that's been a conversation, so when they were deciding what they were gonna put out there, as far as creating the pad, they were purposeful in that, so that way it could remain and be utilized kind of as a multi-purpose thing, so.
Thank you.
Just one last comment. I'd just like to thank you for your time as town manager here in Killen Lake. For 6 years, it's been an enjoyable time, so best luck in the future. from
Thank you,
here.
Kevin.
Thank you.
It was hard writing this last one.
I was gonna say,
And
oh, go
and
ahead.
like I've said in the public and when I get interviewed, I've learned a lot from you in my time on the council. I have seen several positive changes with town staff and in the community after you came on board compared to what existed before. And you're definitely going to leave large shoes to fill for our new town manager when we do appoint a new town manager. And I just hope that we can continue moving Killenly forward the way we have while you've been here. And thank you for all your service.
Thank you.
Ms. George.
Mary, it's been a true pleasure learning from you and working with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very new to this, but it always amazes me every meeting, just how much you really have to know in this position. I mean, from the legal ramifications, what you can say, what you can't say, the amount of experience. It's humbling, really, to see how difficult the job is. So we're going to miss you, and thank you very much for the service.
Thank you.
Is anyone else going? Mary, I concur. Good luck.
Thanks.
You rocked it here, man. Good luck.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're gonna rock wherever you go.
Thank you.
And we've already had
Yeah.
our conversation, so.
Yeah, thank you. It's been good. I think you've done a good job. And despite it, once in a while, we have our differences, but
That's fine. Thank you, Ed. I greatly appreciate and respect.
Moving on in the agenda, due to my failing to open the public hearing at 7 PM at the beginning of this meeting, I will entertain a motion to table item, throw my glasses on so I can even see right now, 14A until the May 13th regular meeting. And I will also, well, first we'll start with that.
So moved.
Okay, motion was made by Mr. Gambatisa, second by Ms. Wakefield. Discussion, again, I apologize in getting the meeting rolling. I had missed the public hearing notation on my cover sheet. Yep, yep, and we had another impromptu meeting prior to that definitely had me distracted when we came in. So, all right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. At this time, I will entertain a motion to add an item to the agenda to set a date for a public hearing on May 13th at 7 PM for the consideration and action on the ordinance amending chapters 2, sections 2-62, 2-92, and 2-172 to clarify the terms of office for the Housing Authority, Planning and Zoning Commission, and Open Space Land Acquisition Committee member term. All right, motion was made by Ms. Wakefield, second by Mr. Cottula. Discussion. Again, this is just setting the date and time of the hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or, excuse me, this is just to add the item to the agenda.
Right,
Yep.
right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We will take up the item we just added to the agenda. Again, this is just to create the date and time for the public hearing. That didn't occur at 7 PM tonight. The public hearing again would be on 5/13 at 7 PM. And that would be,
You could probably just leave it at 14B.
yep, leave it.
Just because it's unfinished business still.
Yeah. So,
You had already had that item
okay.
previously.
So this item is actually 14B.
Mhm.
So can I get a motion and a second to schedule this public hearing for May 13th at 7 PM?
Second.
Motion was made by Ms. Wakefield, seconded by Ms. Barclay. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Again, I apologize for my mistake in not starting the public hearing. We'll now move on in the agenda. Next item up is actually 13B WPCA moratorium update. Do we have anything for that, Ms. Gloria?
I don't really have any new information on that. The WPCA and the interview panel did interview the submissions for design team, for design firms, and they are still working through that process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding that?
So do they have to, is the DEP involved in this at all? How does that play, or just our WPCA and then?
Yeah, so the DEP was required to review the bid documents and approve the bid documents before we could go out for the RFQ. There are very specific criteria that we have to follow through that RFQ process in order to maintain eligibility for clean water funds. Part of that is, we have to negotiate with the highest ranking firm in that interview process. So we had ranking documents that we had to score each of the applicants. We then have to proceed with negotiating for price with highest ranking, and then we proceed from there. So they are walking through those steps. If we don't follow those steps, then the town becomes ineligible for potential grant opportunities.
Danny, that information is all public once they decide, right?
Once they award the contract, yes, then it becomes public information.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on in the agenda. 14A was tabled until next month, so we'll move on to item 15A, new business, consideration and action on a resolution to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Killingly Professional Technical Employee Bargaining Unit. Can I get a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ms. Wakefield, seconded by Mr. Gambatista. Ms. Gloria, can you go over this, please?
Sure, so this tentative collective bargaining agreement was entered into between the town and the professional technical unit. This employee group is largely our assistant department head positions throughout the town. The members of this unit ratified this on March 25th. The agreement is for 3 years for proposed wage increases each year. It's proposed for 3% each year for the 3-year contract. There are other sections that have been modified for clarity. The most significant component that impacted a number of different areas was incorporating the assistant facility maintainer. That position had been added by MOU several years ago. This was the first opportunity to add it through. I think we were supposed to add it at the last union contract negotiation, and we never brought it up. We just dealt with wages, and that was it. And we never kind of missed that opportunity for cleaning up all of that language. So we incorporated that position in all of the respective areas in which with benefits and all of that. The contribution for employee premiums was reduced from 13.5% to 13% in year 1. And then for dependent coverage, it also was reduced from 27% to 26%. This was our highest unit at 27%. And it, from a market comparison perspective, 27 is a higher percentage. So for attraction and retention purposes, going down to 26 was important. Lastly, the meal ticket allowance was increased from $10 to $18. This really only impacts one individual on this. This is related to the highway department when they're called out for, and it's the assistant highway director. The $18 is much more closely reflects the actual market conditions for purchasing a meal, especially the establishments that are open during those weather conditions. And again, it's only impacting one individual. The Personnel Subcommittee reviewed the tentative agreement at their March 27th meeting with our labor attorney, Duncan Forsyth, and they unanimously recommended this to the Town Council for approval. The direct costs for this, it's not going to exceed more than $35,000 in each given year of the contract. And this amount was budgeted within the contingency line of the 25-26 budget that you have proposed before you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on the agenda. Next item up is item 15B, consideration and action on a resolution to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Public Works Employee Bargaining Unit. Can I get a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Motion's made by Ms. Wakefield, seconded by Ms. George. Ms. Gloria, can you go over this, please?
Sure. So this unit is our Public Works as well as our Parks Department. The proposed agreement is for 3 years. The tentative agreement was ratified by the union members on March 18th. And the proposed wage increase is 3% per year for each year of the contract. There were some other additional changes and modifications. The meal allowance was increased by $1 in year 1 and year 2, so that brought it to $17 and $18 respectively. $50 increase for the mechanic tool allowance. They had 2 increases on longevity tier of an increase of $50 for the 5-year bracket and $100 for the 10 years of service and higher bracket. That actually brought them more in line with the other employees and their benefits. The premium cost share for employee only coverage was reduced by 0.5% annually for the duration of this contract. And then lastly, we did. It doesn't really have it ends up being a wash financially. But the uniform allotment, we reduced the allotment that we were paying directly to them for uniforms. And we are going to be providing them, so we will be purchasing directly shirts, uniform shirts and sweatshirts, and that's really to provide continuity in that uniform look and appearance for all of our staff. They will be receiving still a uniform allotment that will include their allotment for their boots as well as pants, because they do, the work that they do go through those. The Personnel Subcommittee reviewed this again with our labor attorney, Duncan, at their March 27th meeting, and again, they unanimously recommended this for approval to the town council. The direct cost for this contract will not exceed $45,500 each year. For each year of the proposed contract, that amount is budgeted for within our contingency line for the fiscal year 25-26 budget. So, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Just real quick. Sorry. The longevity, is that just $50 annually and for the first tier, and then $100 annually for the second tier?
Yes, so it's a once-a-year payment that occurs in December.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
The payment itself, that's an increase of, I'm sorry, I was answering her at the same time. So your question was if it's $50 and then $100. It's actually an increase of that, so it goes, I think, I have to get to that right number within the contract. Longevity is,
It's $50 for the first 5 years?
well,
and then-
it's not $50, that's the increase amount.
Okay.
So the actual longevity is, they're always in different places in all these contracts. So I have to remember which contract I'm in to know exactly which line I get to. Give me 1 minute. We were at, so it's $400 annually for those that are, once they reach 5 years. They have to get to 5 years, and then between 5 and 10 years is when they get the $400 a year bonus, longevity payment. And then, once they get past 10 years, they get $500.
Thank you.
Thank you. I knew I hadn't answered you correctly, so that's why I wanted to clarify.
Any other questions, comments?
I've actually had conversations with both the highway director and parks director. I know they're coordinating because it includes staff from both of them, so that it's a better use of so there's not so much overlapping. It'll help reduce on overtime and just wear and tear on the employees. They're working to coordinate the scheduling so that it's a little bit more even now. I appreciate that on that, for the department heads doing that. But I'd just like to make a public statement that I'm really appreciative of our crews that are represented by this particular contract. The amount of work we keep in town that we don't subcontract out, that saves hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Just our crews doing our work, our tree work, our paving, our sidewalks. I know the borough uses the Public Works Department to do a lot of the sidewalk work that we have done, and it's a considerable cost savings borough residents are Killingley residents, and but they do pay the taxes in both. So it's just a really good use of our tax dollars, and I really appreciate the guys. They're a little rough around the edges sometimes, but I'm okay with that.
And I will just highlight with regards to the financial savings, a direct example of that is the Owen Bell dredging. We bid that project out. It was $568,000 was the lowest bid. We are going to complete that project in under $250,000. It's less than half. You know, that's a huge savings to the town by having our own staff do it. They're also doing a lot of the sidewalk work. They've done a lot of the field restoration work. Even the box culvert, many towns would have contracted out that box culvert replacement. That was another.
We not only did the work, but we engineered it in-house
We did.
too.
We engineered the whole thing in-house. So, as well as the pond was fully engineered in-house. So, those are huge savings to the town, and they definitely, they work very diligently.
With respect to the Owen Bell dredging, well, they had to change the depths and whatnot. That would have been a nightmare had it gone out to a contractor, so there was a
Definitely.
major change
Yep.
with the whole output. Even though they didn't take out as much, but just to change that, change orders would have been, a problem.
I mean, Mary-
And the box culvert, the same thing, we found other along the way. So had we had it, an outside contractor, that would have been, and so they could spend the time, they could stop, they could go elsewhere, maybe for a day or so, when engineering could relook at how do we handle a particular, so. You're in
allowed us-
town, you can, some flexibility, I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
It did allow us to be a lot more flexible to found conditions as we went through the projects, but it definitely, and it was a significant savings, because you're right, if we had contracted for that dredging and then we were gonna do change orders around some of the conditions that we met, it would have been above that $568,000, right? We would have been paying more. So again, they did a really great job, and
And Mary shared, I don't remember if she did it on Winnie or it was our private conversation, the feeding the fish. While we
Oh,
were-
yeah.
That, you know, that,
Yeah. There's
an
some
outside
things-
contractor wouldn't have been out there on the weekend feeding the fish before their food supply reestablished. So, I mean, that's just another example of being really conscientious of the work that they do. And, I mean, having done my own work around my house, it's kind of a little sense of pride when you drive, you stand back and you look at it, it's like, I did that. So, I've come to have conversations with a lot of the guys, and they're pretty proud about some of this. They're humble. They don't like to talk about it, but they do some really nice work in town.
Thank you. Any
Well,
further-
the highway department has had there's been a huge change over there, so again, well, thanks to Mary, there were some issues over there before, so,
Matt worked his way
Now
up too.
it's-
Matt used
it's
to
a
be,
good-
I remember Matt as a laborer, so.
Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on in the agenda. Next item up is 15C. Consideration and action on a resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 Water Pollution Control Authority Sewer Fund Budget. Can I get a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Motion was made by Mr. Cottula,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Wakefield. Ms. Clory, can you just go over this briefly?
yeah, so you had your presentation earlier, going over the expenditures and the revenues. It does reflect a 4% increase in sewer user rates, which they will be holding their public hearing on next Wednesday, the 16th. But by charter, you are required to take action on this.
Thank you.
what was this, no, there's something you have to be approved within 50 days?
Yeah, so you're receiving it now, you have to approve it within 50
Oh,
days.
okay, that's, all right, today's the date of receipt, okay. Because I say, wait a minute, if they approved it on their time, somewhere it's off, and, am I missing something? But I guess not, it was.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on in the agenda. Next item up is item 15D, consideration and action on a resolution to authorize the town manager to execute grant documents with the State of Connecticut Department of Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for the urban forested natural acres or areas and riparian corridor restoration grant awarded to the town. Can I get a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Mr. Grandelsky, seconded by Mr. Cottula. Ms. Clorio, can you go over this, please?
Sure, so this dovetails with the work that we're doing at Chase Reservoir. As part of the forest management plan with the timber harvesting, as they were going through and tagging the trees for that harvesting, they identified even more substantial invasive species plant areas. And so the forester had recommended that the town look at doing some invasive species management while, the canopy is opened and it doesn't further promote that growth. So our staff did submit for this grant. It's a mouthful of a grant name. But they did submit for this grant, and the town has been awarded $20,000. Part of this grant with the state is the exact resolution that you have before you, just basically authorizing the town manager to enter into the documents for this $20,000 grant. It is not a matching grant. We anticipate our initial estimates for the work to be performed for that invasive species removal is about $40,000. The remaining $20,000 of estimate is going to be coming out of the proceeds from that timber harvest. So there's no additional funds needed. The harvesting will cover the additional costs associated with that. And we can scale that depending on how the timber harvesting, how that timber sale is going. So it is a bit flexible, so it's not a matching grant, but it does require the town council to authorize the town manager to execute the documents.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
When we're done with the timber harvest,
Yes.
are we gonna have to do any more work in there to make it amenable to allow the public to?
Yeah, no, we've already identified and removed and brought down the, what we would consider the danger trees, the hazard trees that were along the trail line. So those are already all down. So it's fairly safe at this point in time, although we're, really not wanting to have public in there while we're doing active timber harvesting. Once that completes, then it will be fully accessible to public again. And then we may have to do some temporary, when we go through invasive species remediation, depending on timing of that component as well. But there's not really an issue with, now I will say it's, it looks a lot different from what it was before, but we knew that going in. And sometimes these type of projects, it looks a lot worse until it finally starts looking better, right? Like you have a lot of you have a lot of trees down.
Yeah, there was a lot of dead stuff. Like the harvest is taking some of the salvageable stuff, but there was so much other dead stuff that was in the way.
Right.
And it seems like Owen Bell is our primary recreation area. Then the overflow is Cat Hollow.
Yeah.
And this is timing is just right because this is the next place where everybody's gonna go. So that's why I'm promoting the parking, if we can get the parking there and whatever other amenities.
Yeah, and all of the timber sales will go into the forest management fund. So that way it can be used for development of further forest management plans for other properties as well. And that, you know, we've talked about this before about having to actively start managing some of those open spaces. And the first step is creating those forest management plans and then taking action on those. So this was our initial seed to begin this process. I think it's worked out very well. And our hope is that we'll still have enough residual and that they'll be continued. You know, we've been continuing to propose a small funding level into that forest management fund each year, so that way you can continue to make some progress on those open space areas that people do use for passive recreation.
It's been a long time in the making, ever since I've been in the council, to get this forest management plan. It was like, oh.
We're getting there.
Yes, yes. And I finally, I appreciate everything everybody's been doing. It's finally worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move on in the agenda.
If I may, Chairman, would it be possible to move executive session up to now? We do have 2 individuals here for presentation. They're not sitting in the room. They're in 204 working still.
Oh,
On other things, they knew they were towards the end of the agenda, so they knew that. But if we can not keep them any later than we need to, would be helpful.
I will entertain a motion to move item 17A ahead of item 16.
So moved.
Motion was made by Mr. Grandelski.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cottula. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now move into executive session with the town council, the town manager.
The finance director and representatives from Novus.
Yes. And it is currently 9:12 PM.